This is the first time ever that I've picked up a SCUF controller and did not feel like this thing was not worth the money. I've owned a lot of SCUF controllers before in the past, and every single time is arrived at my doorstep for the absorbent amount of money that I spent on it. Even though the features were always there, it never really felt like it was a solid build controller. And that goes for all the Xbox controllers that I've owned and the 3 PlayStation controllers that I've owned. So I've been a longtime customer of SCUF controllers, and recently I stopped purchasing them. In terms of like my long-term controller use, I've been using other products. But this is the first time in a long time that I feel like these SCUF controllers are actually worth the money, and they feel incredibly solid built, like they are meant to last a much longer time. This is the Instinct Pro from SCUF Gaming, and it comes with just as many, if not a little bit more features than have been featured in previous SCUF controllers. But the biggest thing that I feel like this controller improves on is at least it feels a lot more solid in the hand and a lot more durable feeling. I don't know if that durability will actually hold up over time. I really hope that it does. But in this review, we're going to go ahead and talk about all the features of this controller, and let me know if you guys want to see a huge comparison with other Pro controllers that are at least for Xbox that I can do direct comparisons to. I do have a few on hand, so I think that that will be an interesting video that I may do very, very soon. First thing that we're going to talk about real quick is the packaging. SCUF always kills it with the packaging. Very, very nice sleeve, and then you also have this little pull tab to open the box to reveal the controller where it's set. But inside the packaging, you definitely want to open it up because you get a few other accessories. Those accessories are this really nice braided USB-C cable. Even though this cable, I do believe, is relatively short, I wish it was a bit longer if you planned on using this, for example, on PC wide and your PC was a bit further away from you, or if you were just playing on the couch with your Xbox and you needed a longer charging cable. It's not bad if you're just going to use it, obviously after you're done, plug it back in. That's really nice. But the Xbox controllers, unfortunately, still use batteries, so it doesn't really matter how long the charging connector is because it's not rechargeable. And for a $200 controller, honestly speaking, I wish that SCUF would just give you a battery pack for this amount of money. Even for the bare bones $200 controller that is the Pro model, you should at least get a rechargeable battery in the box, in my opinion. They have another Instinct that is not the Instinct Pro, and I want to say it's around like 170 or 180 bucks. I'll put it on the screen right now. If you are going to get their top end controller, they might as well give you a rechargeable battery pack in the box. I just think that that would add a lot more value and just one less thing that you got to buy. Now, is that necessarily SCUF's fault? No, it's Microsoft's fault for sure, but it would just be nice. Anyways, back to what comes in the box. You do get 2 extra thumbsticks, so you get one long domed and one short domed, and then you also get 2 shorter concave thumbsticks. So I prefer to use the concave thumbsticks. I wish they would have gave you a taller one in the box, but I'm sure that if you customize it, you can probably pick that yourself. I do like these thumbsticks quite a bit more than the old SCUF thumbsticks. The older ones with that rubberized coating that they used to have on top of the thumbsticks would definitely wear off and start to actually peel after a couple of months. Where I've been using this controller for the past about 2.5 weeks, and I really enjoy these thumbsticks quite a bit. They're incredibly smooth. This anti-friction ring feels really good as well. A lot better than the Xbox generic thumbsticks, and these do feel a lot more durable than those old SCUF thumbsticks. I did not like those at all. They did not last hardly longer than 2 or 3 months. The faceplate on this controller is also magnetic, so very easy to pop off and change the aesthetic if you would like. And you can also order different colors if you want to customize your controller as well. You can pop off the D-pad. These are magnetic if you want to interchange them, so you can swap those very easily. And you can also just pop off the thumbsticks and change them to be whatever you want. So you just put it back on, super easy. What I find weird though is that without the cover on, my right thumbstick doesn't get stuck, but my left thumbstick does. I don't know why, just one weird thing that I noticed. But when I have the faceplate on, I don't really have that issue. Like the left one just bounces back. Maybe it's like that on other controllers too, but it's nothing that I ever noticed, but something that I thought I would point out since we're doing the review and I popped the faceplate off. USB Type-C, of course, the newer Xbox controller style with a share button and everything, but you also do have this little mute button at the bottom as well, which is kind of cool to have this little mute button. If you have your mic plugged in, you can just tap it to mute your mic. Getting to the meat and potatoes pedals of this controller, which is going to be everything on the back side. So the grips I actually do like quite a bit. These don't really get that sweaty. Like when you grab it, your hand pretty much stays really dry, and I like this texture compared to like a regular base Xbox controller. Now these new buttons on the Instinct Pro, I like these quite a bit. They do seem a lot more durable, and when you pick them up and grab the controller for the first time, it does not give you that impression that older SCUF controllers had, where honestly they just felt really cheap with those plastic paddles on the back that felt like if you hit the button wrong, they were just gonna fall off and break. And after a while, they did fall off and break. That's why they sold those replacement paddles on their website for like, I think it was like 12 or 15 bucks or something, plus shipping of course. And in my opinion, it ended up just being a really bad and not really ergonomic design either. Even though the SCUF controller gave you a lot of potential in terms of like what you could do without moving your hands off the thumbsticks, I never really found that any of the SCUF controllers I would say were ergonomic, because the first probably like 3 or 4 days that I had the controller, it was really uncomfortable learning how to use those back buttons. And with this controller, these side buttons, I do not have that issue at all. When I grip the controller like this, these two are the most natural to hit. These two right here in the middle of the controller, these are a little bit less natural, so I can still hit them pretty easily, but it's not as easy as the two sides. So I wouldn't exactly call this controller the most ergonomic, but it is a lot better than the previous generation of Xbox and, in my opinion, PlayStation controllers as well. Having those 4 paddles be in the middle of the controller with just the one that was really far elevated above the back of the controller and just pressing down on that with a cheap and honestly flimsy paddle, this design, especially on the sides, is a lot more comfortable and easier to use compared to the previous gen. I don't really know what could be done about this one here, but since I usually map the inner 2 paddles, or buttons in this case, to something that I'm not using that often, it doesn't really bother me that much, and I can use these with ease if I'm just using it in a normal situation and I don't feel pressed to do anything, or I'm not in like an intense gunfight or anything. If you want to change what each button does, all you do, well, let me turn the controller on first, but if you want to change any of these buttons, all you do is you press and hold down this profile button, then this light here is going to start to blink. You're going to grab the button that you want to assign, and then you're going to hit whatever face button or RB or L2 and RT and whatever that you want to change these back buttons to. And it's a very easy process. So like my left button, I want that to be A. I'm going to tap A. It confirmed it for me. And then to end that process, I'm going to tap the profile button again. And there we go. Now we're ready to game. The last thing about the controller that I like quite a bit is the new trigger stop design. So obviously if you set it all the way to the right side, you're going to have a full trigger press. And if you set it to this other mode, you have this really short distance of travel, and it feels like you're clicking a mouse micro switch. But basically this is a brand new trigger stop design that I have not seen anywhere before, and it hasn't been done, in my opinion, implemented nearly as well as this. I've tried like the Hex Rival on the PS5, and that was something that was kind of similar, but unfortunately once you pick that option, there was no way to go back and turn that option off, so it kind of ruined it for every other game that's not a first-person shooter. But with this, if you want to play a driving game with the same controller, you still can, which is great, because you shouldn't, buy a $200 controller and not be able to play all of your games because you wanted trigger stops. Like that's just ridiculous and unreasonable in my opinion. With this implementation, they give you the absolute fastest trigger stop and trigger actuation, and you can also switch it back to a regular and full motion trigger to use with every other game. And don't get me wrong, these triggers do take quite a while to adjust to, but I do like them because they give you the absolute fastest actuation. So if you have both of them activated and you need to aim down sight and shoot at the same time incredibly quick, you most definitely can. It's really nice. I'm glad that SCUF found a new way to do trigger stops that didn't physically alter your trigger, because I remember back in the day they would actually screw something in as like a trigger stop. That was pretty funny. But back in the early days, we didn't really have like all this crazy technology like we do now, but now we have a really nice and innovative way to do trigger stops. My main thing that I'm curious about with this new SCUF controller is how long it will last. And I will tell you, honestly speaking, I've stopped buying SCUF controllers in the past because you pick up the controller and you use it for 3-4 months and you start to have problems at minimum within 6 months of ownership. And to top it all off, again, you would pick up the controller and it just felt cheap and it didn't feel like it was built to last. Where this is the first controller that I picked up that actually feels like it's built to last a really long time. And I hope that it does. I am gonna main this Xbox controller for the foreseeable future, and I'm probably gonna use it until it breaks or until something better comes out. Now, granted, I don't game on console as much as I used to, but I am gonna put this controller through the ringer and use this as my main. So anytime I want to play a console game, or specifically on Xbox, I'm gonna use this controller. And I really hope that this one holds the test of time and I can come back in a year or 2 years and report back on my usage of this controller. And I hope that it still works perfectly. But I am really impressed at what Scuf Gaming has done with this controller. It feels a lot better. It feels like it's worth the money. And in my opinion, this controller is better than the Elite 2 from Microsoft in every way. Even though the Elite 2 uses like premium build materials like metals and stuff like that in the controller, it's more weighty. And this controller, I do enjoy the fact that it is a little bit lighter weight. But unfortunately, one thing that this controller is missing that I do miss from the older Scuf controller designs is the fact that we can't remove the rumbles in the front of the controller to make it significantly lighter. I wish that we could take out these rumbles and put them back in, you know, if we wanted to use them, but that would just be the one other thing that I would change about this controller. Other than that, I really don't have any complaints about this controller other than, you know, obviously with the face shield off, thumbstick sticks, so that's kind of weird, but otherwise, I don't really have anything bad or any major complaints about this controller. It is pretty comfortable to use. My favorite two paddles to use are the outside paddles, so these are really nice. I love the fact that I can use these with ease. The Scuf Instinct Pro for $200 or $170 definitely gets a pass from me. I honestly feel like now that if you want a really good looking aesthetic controller and something that offers great functionality and hopefully lasts a long time, this is definitely the controller that I would recommend. And I'm surprised that I'm saying this about Scuf because I never thought that this day would come where I thought like Scuf controllers would actually be good again, but I'm really impressed this time. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And yeah, let me know if you guys want me to make that controller comparison. If you do, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment. But I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you again for watching.